What is up, everybody? It's your boy, Dr. L, formerly Captain Hunter, still retired captain from the police department. However, I've taken on the moniker of Dr. L, so it's Dr. L, and welcome to the breakdown. Change the name of the program, change the name of the channel, doing big things, moving up, moving, advancing, and all that kind of stuff. Also, remember to check out my other channel talking about self-improvement and or relationships. Really want to get into self-improvement and all that. I really want men to become the best versions of themselves. So I really want you to work on that. So let's get into it here. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that kind of good stuff. And for this particular story, we're gonna just do a quick, brief story before we get into it. Excuse me. We're gonna do a quick story about a law student who writes a nationalist paper advancing the idea that this was and is a racist country, and that the original authors of the Constitution envisioned this as a white nationalist project. I don't think anyone is really surprised by that. However, it's become, for some reason, unfashionable for people to say that. And we have been trying to fight back, and Black folks in this country, in the United States, have been trying to fight back against that type of language, that type of mentality, and try to say that we have fought our blood in our soil. Our blood is in the soil, excuse me, and all that type of stuff, just like everybody else's, right? We bled and died in every other conflict, including those that's going to be in the future. So we have as much right to the rights of citizenry as anyone else. So let's get into this particular story here. So we're going to read from the New York Times. And we're going to read from the New York Times here. So this is this what I want? No, let's do this one. I don't want that one either. I was playing around with my stuff here, so let's see. Why is it not the bigger one? This is what I wanted. All right. I was playing around with my settings here, trying to get everything up and working. So this says from the New York Times, a white nationalist wrote a law school paper promoting racist views. It won him an award. The University of Florida student won an academic honor after he argued in the paper that the Constitution applies only to white people. From there, the situation spiraled. Let's see what it says. Frederick G. Levin, College of Law, Spellard L. Holland Law Center. The granting of an academic award to a white supremacist who wrote a law school paper promoting racist views set up months of turmoil on the University of Florida campus. Preston Demsky is a law student at the University of Florida. He's also a white nationalist and anti-Semite. Last fall, he took a seminar taught by a federal judge on originalism, the legal theory favored by many conservatives that seek to interpret the Constitution based on its meaning when it was adopted. In his capstone paper for the class, Mr. Damsky argued that the framers had intended for the phrase "we the people" in the Constitution's preamble to refer exclusively to white people, probably more likely white property owners, not white women, white males. From there, he argued for the removal of voting rights protections for non-whites and for the issuance of a shoot-to-kill orders against criminal infiltrators at the border. Turning over the country to a non-white majority, Mr. Demsky wrote, would constitute a terrible crime. White people, he warned, cannot be expected to meekly swallow this demographic assault on their sovereignty. At the end of the semester, Mr. Demsky, 29, was given the Book Award, which designated him the best student in the class. According to the syllabus, the capstone counted the most toward final grade. I read in another article that it was 65%. This capstone project was 69% of his final grade. The Trump-nominated judge who taught the class, John L. Badalamenti, I didn't read this before, so I'm reading it fresh with you, declined to comment for this article and does not appear to have publicly discussed why he chose Mr. Demsky for the award. We know why. We know why. That left some students and faculty members at the law school consider Florida's most prestigious to wonder and to worry. What merit could the judge have seen in it? that he was right. The granting of the from his point of view, I should say, the granting of the award sets off months of turmoil on the law school campus. Its interim dean, Merritt McAllister, defended the decision earlier this year, citing Mr. Demsky's free speech rights and arguing that professors must not engage in viewpoint discrimination. Well, I've talked about this, right? You can't, as professors, you should not be arguing, censoring people because you don't like their point of view, right? It's about facts, data, and stats. Facts, data, and stats. That's what should matter. Miss McAllister, in an email to the law school community, also Merritt McAllister. I thought Merritt was a man's name. Okay, Merritt. Okay, Miss McAllister, in an email to the law school community, also invoked institutional neutrality, an increasingly popular policy among college administrators. It instructs schools not to make public positions on hot button issues. I actually agree with that. But the question of how officials should respond to Mr. Damsky, who in an interview said that referring to him as a Nazi would not be manifestly wrong, it's not merely academic. Well beyond the classroom, bigoted and extremist views are on the rise and vying for mainstream acceptance, raising questions about whether principles of neutrality and free speech rights are proper and adequate responses to the threats. X, the social media platform owned by Elon Musk, recently allowed millions of people to view Kanye West's new song, Saluting Hitler, when other platforms removed it. Vice President J.D. Vance criticized European government's effort to ostracize far-right political parties on the grounds that doing so violates principles of free speech. At the University of Florida, the story of the book award took a dramatic turn soon after Ms. McAllister defended the decision to honor Mr. Damsky with it. It was then, in February, that Mr. Damsky opened an account on X and began posting racist and anti-Semitic messages. After he wrote in late March that the Jews must be abolished by any means necessary, the university suspended him, barred him from campus, and stepped up police patrols around the law school. Oh, that was too much, though, right? That was too much. He is now challenging the punishment, which could result in his expulsion. Mr. Damsky's hateful posts drew shock and fear in some corners of the university. According to Hillel International, the university has the largest numbers of Jewish undergrad students in the country. Its student body is 48% white, 22% Hispanic, 10% Asian, and 5% Black, according to school data. Largest undergrad students in the country. The university has the largest number of Jewish. I want to know if that's the law school or just undergrad students, Jewish undergrad students. But this is the law school, right? We're talking about the law school here. A spokesman for the university declined to answer questions related to this article or to make any administrators available for interviews. Cowards. But in emails to Mr. Damsky, obtained by the New York Times, university officials wrote that his posts had made numerous students fear for their safety. The officials also cited another student's claim that Mr. Damsky had prescribed his paper as concluding on a call for extra legal violence, which Mr. Damsky denies. In an interview, Mr. Damsky said that he belonged to no organizational group and that he did not pose a physical threat to anyone. Of course, you got to say that kind of stuff. He said he was being unfairly targeted for sharing his ideas and blithely shrugged off the criticism. The disciplinary measures he faces could result in expulsion. He said he planned to fight them vigorously. You know, he said, I'm not like a psychopathic axe murderer. A psychopathic axe murderer. Mr. Damsky said his ideas were well formed before he started law school, shaped by reading authors like Sam Francis, a white nationalist, Richard Lynn, who argued for white racial superiority and eugenics. He grew up around LA and studied history at the University of California, Santa Barbara. He wanted to become a prosecutor. He said after watching a progressive-minded California prosecutors adopt policies that he believed were soft on crime. Many law students learned about his extremism last fall when a draft of the paper he wrote for a different class was passed among students and faculty members. Mr. Damsky, who has just completed his second year of law school, assumes that a fellow student shared it with others. Like his paper for the originalism seminar, it is also argued It also argued the Constitution was written exclusively for white people. It went on to discuss that non-whites should be stripped of voting rights and given 10 years to move to another country. In January, Carlos Chapman, an associate law professor at Southern Methodist University, began a stint as a visiting scholar at the school. It was not long, she said, before a number of Black and Jewish students came to her with concerns about Mr. Damsky. Let's see, I just find it fascinating that this student can write an article, a series of articles that are essentially manifestos, and that's free speech, said Carlos Chapman. But my class can't be called race, entrepreneurship, and inequality. I'm going to reach out to this lady. Miss Chapman was struck in part by her own experiences at the school in contrast to Mrs. Damsky's award. She had proposed teaching a class during her time there called Race, Entrepreneurship, and Inequality, but administrators at the school changed the name to Entrepreneurship, she said, before listing it in the course catalog. She attributed the change to Florida lawmakers' crackdown on diversity-oriented language and themes in public education, a push that preceded the Trump administration's broader war on progressive ideology. I just find it fascinating that this student could write an article, a series of articles that are essentially manifestos, and that free speech. What I read before was something under a picture. As the spring semester got underway, word spread that Mr. Damsky had won the book award at Judge Balladini's Badalamente's originalism seminar. How do you come up with anything but that? I mean, if you're taking a seminar class, I wasn't anything but that originalism. What did the authors of the Constitution originally mean when they put pen to paper? I don't understand the controversy here. I think a lot of times, Black people, we just are in this bubble, just in this box. We just forget a lot of stuff. It's crazy. Mr. Damsky's paper includes arguments similar to those recently adopted by the Trump administration, including a call to reconsider birthright citizenship, an assertion that aliens remain second-class persons under the Constitution. It also argues that the courts should challenge the constitutionality of the 14th Amendment, which ensures birthright citizenship to the due process and equal protection under the law, and the 15th Amendment, which protects the right to vote for non-white citizens. Mr. Damsky concluded the paper by raising the specter of revolutionary action if the steps he recommended towards forging a white ethno-state were not taken. The people cannot be expected to meekly swallow this demographic assault on their sovereignty, he wrote, adding that that if the courts did not act to ensure a white country, the matter would be decided not by the careful balance of justicia's scales, but by the gruesome slashing of her sword. Ms. Chapman called Mr. Damsky's argument anti-intellectual and absurd. We fought a whole civil war that freed slaves and said we, the people, now means everyone. But it was granting of the award that galled her the most. We should not be giving awards to things that advocate for white supremacy and white power, she said, adding that she believed the award had emboldened Mr. Damsky to begin posting the racist and anti-Semitic comments on social media. Mr. Damsky argued that at least some of the framers meant for the Constitution to only apply to white people is by no means a new one. Evan D. Bernick, an associate professor at Northern Illinois University, notes that the argument can be found in the KKK's founding organizational documents from the late 1860s. Among originalists, though, this interpretation has been widely rejected. Instead, conservatives had argued that much of the text of the Constitution tilts towards liberty for all, said Jonathan Giannap, an associate professor of history at law at Stanford. They also note that the post-Civil War amendments guaranteeing rights to non-white people washed away every racial taint that was in the original document. That's not the argument. The argument is, believe me, I'm not trying to support what this guy's saying. I'm just saying that when these framers framed the Constitution, this is what they meant. It's what they meant. Now, is it true that we fought the Civil War? All this other stuff about washing away the taint of racial animus and all that? Yeah, that's true. That's true. And Black folks and Hispanic folks and all these other people fought for their freedoms. And, you got to make a decision. And to me, the decision has been made. So, while Mr. Demsky's papers were written in a formal style is consistent with legal scholarship, his social media posts have been blunt, crass, and ugly. A critic of Israel's war in Gaza, he argued in one post that President Trump and Secretary of State Marco Rubio were controlled by Jews, whom he called the common enemy of humanity. In posts about Guatemalan illegal immigrants, he said that invaders should be done away with by any means necessary. He lamented the self-flagellatory mindset of modern-day Germans, noting their failure to revere Hitler. Judge Badalamenti, who sits on the U.S. District Court for the Middle District of Florida, was one of the two instructors for the class in which Mr. Damsky won the award. A member of the Conservative Federalist Society has earned praise from both liberals and conservatives over the course of his career. The class was co-taught by Ashley Grabowski, a lawyer and federal district judge, a court clerk who, like the judge, is an adjunct professor at the law school. Mr. Man, this is a long article here, huh? Miss Grabowski did not respond to the request for comment. Mr. Damsky said he assumed that if it was the judge who graded the paper, he also said the judge is not a white nationalist. Well, of course he's going to say that. Don't get me wrong, he added, I would prefer if he was. Students took their complaints to Miss McAllister, the interim dean. She addressed the granting of the award to Mr. Damsky in at least two town hall style meetings, according to an email she wrote to students in an article in the Independent Florida Alligator, the student newspaper. In the February email, the dean wrote that the law school, as a public institution, was bound by the First and 14th Amendments, meaning no faculty member may grade down a paper that is otherwise successful simply because he or she disagrees with what the paper advances. Institutional neutrality, she wrote in the email, is not an agreement or complicity with the ideas that community members advances. It's just that neutrality, she added, the government, in this case, or our public university, stays out of picking sides so that through the marketplace of ideas, you can debate and arrive at truth for yourself and for the community. Some at the law school agree with her stance. In an interview, John F. Stennard, a professor at the university, said it would be academic misconduct for a law professor who opposed abortion to give a lower grade to a well-argued paper advancing baby deletion rights. If it were a good paper, he said, you should put aside your moral qualms and give it an A. A number of students disagree, but several declined to be interviewed on the record for fear that criticizing the school or a sitting federal judge would harm their future job prospects. One former student who graduated in May had his post-graduation job offer rescinded by a law firm when he told them he had spoken to the New York Times for his article criticizing Ms. Damsky's paper and Judge Badalamenti's for granting him the award. The student asked not to be identified for fear of jeopardizing other over job offers. Before his suspension, Mr. Damsky had been offered a summer internship in the local prosecutor's office, but in early April, the prosecutor, Brian Kramer, the state attorney for the 8th Judicial Circuit of Florida, rescinded the offer. You can imagine, Mr. Cramsey said in an interview, that having someone in your offer who espouses those kind of beliefs would cause significant mistrust in the fairness of prosecutions. That's it. So this is where we're at. You do what you want with that information. Move accordingly. It's out there. You think it's over. Sometimes we think that it's over. It's not over. Not by a long shot. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. How would you have graded this paper? What do you think about his thoughts? Should he have his abilities to go forward, be granted internships negated because of his opinions? Do you know people who think like this secretly or in open? Your thoughts and your opinions, hit me in the comment section. Much love and peace.